Tilly Good, Volunteer Development Specialist with Iowa 4-H Youth Development. Behavior management is part of the 4-H experience in order to empower youth to reach their full potential. It may not be something we are comfortable with or sometimes find difficult. Today, we will use a resource provided by our colleagues at 4-H National Headquarters to look at behavior management. Behavior management is a twofold process: developing group guidelines to provide a sense of group ownership of behavior and using techniques to address specific behaviors that promote a positive environment. Young people want to cooperate and be a part of a group. As a 4-H volunteer or staff member, you can help youth identify and develop their own group guidelines that support a successful and cooperative learning environment. Young people are more likely to accept guidelines if they have been included in the development of those guidelines. Giving them ownership of their behavior and helping them set their own guidelines encourages the group to monitor their actions and utilize peer pressure in a positive manner to model behavior. Developing group guidelines can be tied to the 4 H's we know so well: head, heart, hands, and health. When developing group guidelines, we need to keep the 4 H's in mind, plus add one more. The 5th H is for hush, or quiet signal. We must use our head to develop group guidelines that are well thought out and planned. The group should come up with a few guidelines that are logical, reasonable, and possible. They also need to be easy to understand, written in simple language, and non-debatable. Avoid using the words never and always, as sometimes circumstances may make those words impossible to enforce. Good guidelines also consider the heart of the group members. Members develop social skills in 4-H, so we want to be sure the guidelines reinforce caring, sharing, cooperation, and how to resolve conflicts. Also in the heart of guidelines is the partnership between the adult and youth. Developing the guidelines should be a shared responsibility, from creating rules with consequences to the enforcement of the guidelines. Youth learn best from hands-on learning, and the process of developing guidelines should also be hands-on. Youth learn when they do the work for the group. Only create needed and necessary guidelines so they promote teamwork and responsibility within the group. Consequences should be developed at the same time the guidelines are designed. The consequences should be appropriate for the rule, and the end result should encourage members to work together toward the group's goals. The health and well-being of group members should always be at the forefront when planning group guidelines. With that in mind, guidelines should be stated in a positive manner to promote good behavior and maintain each member's self-worth and respect. If consequences need to be enforced, the offender should not be humiliated or embarrassed publicly. Guidelines and rules should also keep members physically safe. Finally, be sure to consider an additional H. A signal for hush will help the group focus on important matters when you or someone else needs their attention. This signal can be raising of a hand, a flicker of the lights, a clap of the hands, or some other agreed-upon signal. The key is to use the signal and wait for the group to become quiet. Take some time now to think about possible group guidelines. Write them down and keep in mind the H's of planning when writing them. Remember to state them in a positive way. Also think about, why is it important to have group guidelines? How can it benefit your group? How can we help youth follow the guidelines? What can a group leader or member say to someone who has broken the guidelines? You can find a handout that reviews developing group guidelines together here on the Volunteer Resources website. It provides an overview of what we just discussed. Feel free to press pause now to write down your thoughts. As volunteers and staff, you each bring your own skills and experiences in working with youth to your role. When dealing with behavior management, there are many different ways that you can plan for and respond to situations to encourage cooperation within a group. A successful cooperative group meeting is due in great part to proper planning. This means planning for starting, transitions, endings, and differences in youth needs. It also means taking an interest in and using positive behaviors to build relationships with each youth. Planning for a meeting ensures that there will be a variety of opportunities for youth to participate and they will know what to expect. This also helps reduce your anxiety level as a volunteer. Some tips to consider in your planning include: plan activities carefully. Read, understand, and practice or think through giving directions for new activities. Have all materials ready. Set up the room appropriately. Allow enough time to complete the task. Set up the activities so each child has a choice during some part of the activity. No matter how much you plan, there may be a youth or two who do not follow the guidelines or disrupt the learning in some way. This next activity will help you consider various techniques that can be used to handle disruptive youth. Take some time now to think of a behavior issue you have encountered that made it difficult to have a successful and cooperative meeting or activity. Based upon the 7 categories listed here, identify the category you think best describes the situation. Now, let's think about strategies for managing behavior. We have some techniques listed on the screen, and you can also find them on the handout that we showed you earlier. Which technique do you feel is the best way to prevent or address the situation you described? As we deal with youth, remember the ultimate goal of behavior management is to help youth develop skills to manage their own behavior. Does the chosen technique help develop a child's ability to choose a positive cooperative behavior? Does the technique do more than just stop a negative behavior? Does the technique model and teach positive behavior skills? Youth want to belong to the group and be valued for their contributions. They want to learn and gain mastery, share and give back, and demonstrate independence. Providing an environment where the essential elements are being met, group guidelines are in place, and using techniques to address specific behavior creates an environment for learning and positive youth development. Thank you for taking the time today to learn more about behavior management. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact your local county youth staff or any of your state staff in 4-H Youth Development. Also, thank you to our national partners with 4-H National Headquarters for putting together the presentation today.